Hi, today I'm having a look at S.H.Monsterarts Godzilla Comic-Con Explosion. So here we've got the box, and you can see that there's this custom artwork done especially for the convention on the front of the box, and it's pretty nice looking, and it depicts Godzilla in his meltdown colours. And something that's different about this box compared to every other box that I've got so far, at least from S.H.Monsterarts, is it's all English. So at the front here we've got monster maker Yuji Sakai and the other little logos here. So finally I get to know the names of people who sculpted this. Turning it around to the back, pan up a little bit, we have another custom piece of artwork, and that's Godzilla menacing and destroying the convention center where Comic-Con was. I'm not in America, so I'm never going to have an opportunity to see that place, but I understand it looks the same in the artwork as what it does in reality. So on the side, we've got illustrator and character designer Yasushi Torisawa. So he's the guy who drew these pictures. Let's get to the figure. Okay, so here we go. Now, the first thing I'll say is that if you don't like the idea of a massive kaiju going into thermonuclear meltdown and potentially exploding and destroying the entire Earth with his meltdown, then you're probably not going to like this figure. And it's not really something that ever happens in the movies. This is what would happen if Godzilla's runaway meltdown just was not stopped or checked by anything. He would explode. This figure is not the same as Burning Godzilla. There's another toy called S.H.Monsterarts Burning Godzilla. I have it on order, it'll be here very shortly. And what that is an entirely new sculpt, a little bit bigger than this, with mainly solid colours, but some sections, like in the thighs and abdomen area, this translucent plastic showing through to give a meltdown effect. But it's not the same as this guy. In fact, this Explosion Godzilla is identical in sculpt to plain old vanilla original Godzilla. So you can see, just having a look at them, that they look exactly the same. Same degree of Poseability, same tail, everything the same. So, I mean, if you have an original Godzilla, there isn't any pressing need to go out and buy this Explosion version unless you just like the way that the orange plastic looks. So putting him away. Now, before I get on to the other parts of the toy, there are some really egregious quality control issues that came along with this figure. Starting with the arm, okay, so the least of the problems when I got this guy out of the box was his arm had been inserted so hard in this position that it was quite difficult to get out, and the plastic seemed to, maybe it had swelled in there or something. Perhaps it was because this plastic behaves differently than the normal plastic that they use, but it just wouldn't come out. And in the end I pulled it really hard and I popped it loose and it came into the correct position. And in doing so, I was really scared that I was about to break the internal skeleton of the figure, because it was quite a lot of force that was necessary. But that's no big deal because it's all come good now. The second problem, which has also been rectified, was this hip joint here. I get the feeling that these are mechanically rammed on, because it was rammed in this angle so hard that it was in a position that it couldn't move at all, and it looked like I had two of the same leg. And for a few minutes I thought I'd got a dud figure with two of the same leg, but when I realized it wasn't, I was just comparing the sculpt to my other version of this, I pulled it really hard, and again I got a pop and it went out of its kind of locked in position and looked like this. So in the end it ended up looking okay, but it was not assembled correctly is the best way to put it. Perhaps whoever did it had the wrong angle or was just too vigorous in how they inserted it. But they're okay, they're fixed. The really bad problem, which doesn't seem to be able to be fixed, is this gaping hole. So you can see Godzilla's leg has basically stopped working how it's supposed to, and I feel like it's falling apart. So on this leg you can see this is how it's meant to articulate. Every time I move it backwards and forwards, these floating sections on the knee and the calf kind of float along with the internal skeleton and cover up any holes that open. On this side, every time I articulate it, it feels like it's getting a little bit longer and about to fall off, and these huge gaping holes just open up. Now, I've pushed it really hard trying to solve this and get it into the right spot, and I've tried pulling down on this calf section, trying to get that to float in the correct place, but no matter what I do, it doesn't want to sit right, and there's just no fixing this. I've considered sending it back, and I did buy it from BBTS, so I'm sure they would take it back, but given that this is a heavy little guy and it's another country, it would be quite expensive for me to send it back, so I'm just giving up on the idea. The one saving grace is that given that he's all this translucent orange, it doesn't show up that much. So if I just sit him there in a kind of neutral pose, you don't really notice it, but it is definitely screwed up. Okay, one other minor thing, which is not really quality control, just a design choice. On this tail, we have many different colors in this segmented tail. So you've got sort of striations in the color going the whole way down, and I feel that maybe one of the reasons they did that is that on this translucent plastic it is much harder to maintain control over the exact color that it sets at. That would explain why they did it, because otherwise you'd end up with some figures with one big block of color and then another big block of color, and it wouldn't look natural. So by kind of randomizing their bin of parts, you can see that you end up with every figure having multiple colors in the tail, and perhaps it's kind of more uniform to the eye, if not in reality. So it's not too bad. That doesn't upset me. It would have been nicer if it was all the same, but it's really a minor thing. As far as paintwork goes, there is quite a bit of application of yellow on this guy. So his body seems to be all translucent plastic, just much the same as with the original Godzilla. His body was all kind of black, but we do have a really good application of shades of yellow down on these spines and more yellow on the toenails and the fingernails. So basically any fine extremities have been sort of moved up into the more yellow end of the spectrum, and that's kind of realistic. I like that because with the huge heat building up inside of him, these thinner parts would be getting hot faster, so it's a kind of realism to the figure that I like. Now, apart from the yellow there, he does have some red on the tongue, where it might actually be molded in a little bit of slightly different plastic. Focus. And his eyes are an orange, but again, it's a bit difficult to tell whether it's actually paint or just they've managed to squirt some different plastic in there. I can't tell. Poseability. He shares all the same poseability with the other Godzilla mold, so his arms can go around, but the differences come in with the plastic. Because this plastic is more gummy and it seems that the sizes are less under control, things tend to touch each other a lot more. So you can see here his arm really doesn't want to bend up, and his legs hardly want to move at all, but you do still get double jointedness in the elbow, and on this leg at least the same degree of motion on the knee. The tail can still swish around all over the place and holds its weight pretty good. Head is actually a little bit loose, to be honest. You can see that's pretty loose, and if I bend it like that, you can see the internal workings of it. Now that's not all negative that you can see those workings. One thing that I really do like is that with the translucent flesh, or whatever you want to call that, you can see the internal rigid plastic skeleton through there, and because it's a lighter color, it ends up looking like Godzilla's bones. So you've got Godzilla melting down, and you can see his bones inside his flesh, and that's a nice effect. And in person, you can actually see it in the leg a bit as well, although on camera it may not be showing up. It's good. If it works good, but it's upsetting to me that I can actually see the piece of plastic sitting inside on that. I don't know, what can I do? Who can I compare this guy to? Meltdown. That's what would have happened. Okay, accessories. This Godzilla comes with no accessories whatsoever, which is another really good reason to buy Fire Rodan, because Rodan's spiral energy beam effect part is perfect for explosion Godzilla. The color scheme is virtually the same, and it looks like something that would come out of his mouth, given how orange he is. Rodan is okay in himself, but this part is really justified. It justifies the whole value of that kit. I don't have some of the standalone effects add-on kits. I think they're running at like $200 or some price like that on eBay right now. But I believe one of the other kits has a kind of pinkish or reddish orange effect part, which is not as elaborate with these twisted energy spirals, but it still looks good with him. And I'm going to bet that this is going to look fantastic with my Burning Godzilla when I get that as well. So my final thoughts. Is this guy worth getting? I think yes. So I paid about $70 from BBTS, and that's the other good thing. Even though it's an exclusive to the Comic-Con, BBTS still are selling this right now, and it's not too expensive when you compare it to the price of some of the other Monsterarts. That puts it only about $5 more than plain old Godzilla, and $5 or $10 less than some of the other guys who are newer. So the price isn't that bad. The only question is the quality of yours going to come out with a dud leg like mine? And I'm guessing most people's aren't, because I haven't heard too many other complaints. So I do recommend this figure, but it's definitely an easy pass if you don't care too much about having non-movie appearing characters. So thanks for watching my video review of S.H.Monsterarts Comic-Con Explosion Godzilla.